So for filling those pages with life, I will start with that starting page. So with index.js in the pages folder with this index.js file. In there, we can add our component, for example, the homepage component, and of course also export that. That's always important. And then we want to return the JSX code that defines this component and that therefore defines what should show up on the page. And here, what should show up in the end is our meetup list component. And that's a component that wants a meetups prop here, which holds a list of meetups, which we then map into a list of JSX elements, where every meetup needs to have an ID, an image, a title, and an address. And hence, when we use meetup list in our page component, we need to make sure that we do provide that meetups prop to it. It's also worth noting that meetup list, like meetup item and so on, is a regular React component. It is, however, stored in a components folder, not in the pages folder. Now, that folder name is up to you. The only reserved name in the end is the pages folder name. You can name your other folders however you want. I named it components though because I do store React components in there, but the important difference to the page components is that those components stored in there will not be loaded as pages automatically. Instead, we can simply use them in the JSX code of other components, including page components. So we can include the meetup list component on our main page here on the home page, simply by going to that homepage component and importing meetup list there from going up one level, components, meetups, meetup list. So I import this component from this file, and then we can use it here. And hence here we can, for example, output meetup list like this, and then set this meetups prop, which this component expects. And for the moment, we can then construct some dummy meetups here. Later, we'll be able to create and store our own meetups in a database. For the moment, let's use some dummy meetups. And that actually should be an array of meetup items where every item has an ID, for example, M1 for the first meetup, where every meetup then has a title, like a first meetup, where every meetup then has an image. And for this here, I'm using an image from Wikipedia, which is not taken by me, but which instead was taken by Thomas Wolf, to whom I therefore want to give due credits. So this image is taken by him. And I'll just grab that image here, grab the URL to that image, because we're not going to implement file upload here, and use that here as an image URL. Now every meetup should then also have an address, because that's another piece of data which we extract in the meetup list component here. So we want to have that address field here as well. And I'll set this to some address 5123445 some city. And we can also add a description, even though we don't need that yet, but I will add it here, a description with this is a first meetup. And now we can of course replicate this. So duplicate this meetup and give the second one an ID of M2, and then name it a second meetup, and this is a second meetup, and maybe change the address and use a different image as well if you want to. I'll stick to the same one. And then we can pass this dummy meetups array into this meetups prop of the meetup list component. And that's all standard React. There's nothing Next.js specific about that. The only Next.js specific part here is that we're in a special component, which is special because it's in such a page of file. Other than that, it's a regular React component. And if we now save that, if we save this and restart our development server here, because it crashed, because I had no page content initially, if we visit localhost 3000, we should see this on the screen. This is not the finished look, but this shows that it works and that our first page is loaded successfully. And we're using another React component in that page, a component which is not a page component. That is also worth pointing out. And with that, we got this page in place. Let's now also work on that new meetup page, and let's make sure we render some content here as well.